Good afternoon, everyone. This is Deb Slutmone. We are talking today about safe pay, and I see I got quite a few of you that responded to our poll that we put on earlier about are you using a safe pay system, and really are you using it in Great Plains? So I got a lot of good responses. We'll put out a couple polls throughout, but we did have a lot of people saying they were using a safe pay, and I'm hoping that you guys have all got it automated, but if not, that's what we're going to learn today. So hopefully everyone can see my screen, and we're gonna just jump right into safe pay, or some of you might know positive pay. And I'm gonna show you how not only to set it up, but also how to run it and some tips and tricks along the way. If you have questions during the broadcast, go ahead and put them into the question pane. We'll be stopping throughout this next 30 minutes to talk through people's questions and make sure that you guys all get answers. So this session is also being recorded. So keep in mind that you can get a copy of the recording. It's on our website, and you'll also get an email to you. So you can go ahead and listen to it again if you'd like. Okay? So guys, if your GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar panel is in your way, remember you can pick it up and just move it around your screen. So make sure you can see, the majority of the screen at all times. Okay. So first of all, where are all the safe pay pieces loaded and installed at? So if you notice on mine, I'm in the financial center, okay, and underneath the financial center into the routines. So some of you that might be older, and I mean older in the best way as far as user goes, you can use the tools, routines, and financial and get there as well, okay? But if you notice, there's configurator, upload maintenance, summary history, transaction history. There's a lot of stuff. So that's why it's better on this one to be able to drop it into the palette, so then you don't have to be driving so much to get where you want to go. So we're going to go ahead and start off with just the configurator. And for some of you, this is going to be the scariest part. This might be the spot that you really want to get help on. Okay, my team can all help with this. Just know that really formats, you can set up a ton of them. There's nothing you can break in here, okay? Even if you load and it doesn't work, you can reload. So kind of keep in mind that this is a nice one as far as being able to be really usable and easy. The setup though gets a little tricky because you're working with a bank setup. So I'm going to show you one of mine here. And it's just a Wells Fargo setup. Okay, so I'm going to use my looking glass. I've got a couple of them set up because you might have multiple banks that you work with. And I just put in a name, give it a description, and then I come down and I look at what I need. Like I said, the bank is going to be very specific for what they want you to set up. So we'll follow that and we can help you through that. At the same time, sometimes the bank just says, I need a listing of all of your checks, okay? I need the check amount, the check date. They may want a payee. They may want an account number. They don't really sometimes say, I don't need a header. I might not need a footer. They might just say, I just need the detail, okay? Some of you may already be providing this to the bank today, but doing it manually through SmartList, which is great. It works, but it's very manual. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to start a brand new one from scratch here, just so you can see how easy it is. And I'm going to set up US Bank, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and call it US Bank again, okay? And I'm going to save it as a new output format. Now, if you notice, my window is completely blank. So again, this might be a little bit of the tricky part. I'm going to go ahead here and underneath output type, I'm going to drop that down. And this is where the bank's going to say, I want tab delimited, fixed field, or comma delimited. They'll tell us, and I'm going to set that into comma delimited. And I'm going to say for mine, I'm just going to create a detail section, okay? And this is where, again, if the bank says I need a header, and then I need a footer, and I need a detail, that's where we go ahead and we just add in the sections, okay? I'm going to do a simple one for us, okay? And I'm just going to call this detail. Here, I'm going to tell it it's going to have 5 fields. And again, this information will come in a bank packet. So once I set this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say add there. And if you notice, it tells me right here now that I'm working, when I click on it, on those 5 fields. So far, so good, right? From here, I go into each of the fields by clicking on them, going back into field name and saying, okay, this first one is going to be an account number, okay? And then I drop down and I pick the account number and I tell it, okay, that's just plain text, no worries, and I save. I keep doing that all the way through. Now I'm going to say check number and pick out my check number. Okay, and again, my check number here is text and I say save. Next one, I'm going to say check amount and pick out my check amount. Okay, and the bank's going to give you this total, they're going to give you what exactly they want to see. And remember, my whole team is here to help. I'm going to say payee and grab that payee, and you notice there's a few more down here. Okay, and what this is doing is it's creating that file for the bank to be able to match with what you have created for checks. Okay, and some of them, like this one, will ask for a format, and again, it's going to be specific as far as how the bank wants it. So if you take a look at what we just did, is we added account number, check amount, payee, and check date to our detail. Simple as that. Now, I will tell you one of the key pieces of this is going up to the top and using this codes entry button. If you drop down codes and entry, transaction codes, this is where you say, if it's a check, match it to, again, this is what you're going to see. Sometimes it'll be just a simple C and save. If it's a void, it might be already denoted as a V for void. Okay, and if it's an electronic transaction, it might be noted as an E or another value that the bank is saying this is how we match these types of transactions. Okay, you can also omit things that have already cleared, like direct deposits, are all going to start with the DD. So you could say omit those because they have alphas in the transaction. Okay. Now, remember, that was up under your codes entry. So don't forget that because you won't be able to process without having codes in there. At the same time, the fields, remember, we're getting those from our bank. Now I'm going to save my configurator and I can add as many of these configurations. And remember, the keys on those was saying add. I can change as I put these in. So if the bank comes back with another change, I can change them. But once I have them in my configurator, I'm going to go ahead and look at my upload maintenance. My upload maintenance is really where I start putting things together. So again, I'm going to call this one, let's see, who do I got already? I've got a payroll one and I've got a Wells Fargo. This was my US Bank one. So I'm going to call this one US Bank again. And I'm going to come over to my output format. And that's really what we just made, was that output for US Bank. Okay, if you already have an output format and you just need to set it to another account, super easy to do. You just add another bank upload in. Okay. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and put this one to my Lakes Bank, and then I'm going to add in that checkbook, okay? And that one I'm going to put to my Lakes Benefits, and then I'm going to come down here to my upload file name. This is kind of like direct deposit where you tell it what the ACH name is going to be, because really, in all honesty, we're just making a file at the end. So I'm going to call this one file for Flex, okay, and you name that file and you tell it where it's going to be stored at, so you can go ahead and send that. Okay, we're not going to get fancy putting communication links or worried about EFTs for today. The key here is to getting that file going, but just know that those two options are pretty fun as well once you get started with this. Okay. I'm going to save this one again. Now let's just walk through so far what we've done. Okay, we've started with our configurator, okay, and we made our format, right? That's all we did in our format. If you notice at the top, I can import a format or export a format to be able to safeguard it or use it in another system. I don't have to. I can do them from scratch every time, especially if they're just an easy check detail. That takes us no time at all to set up. Upload maintenance is where I start tying my checkbooks to the upload and to the format, okay? It also gives you some statistics there. So if I look at my Wells Fargo one, you can see my Wells Fargo one, I last uploaded it on 4/15/17 because remember, this is my sample data. I had 5 checks in it and I had some totals there. So, you know, sometimes when you're like, okay, I share this job with Brandon and I'm not sure if Brandon remembered to send the SafePay file. And if Brandon forgets to send the SafePay file, all of our checks will be sitting in the exceptions. This is one kind of place I could go to look to see when was the last time it was uploaded and if it was sent, okay? And also if the bank gave us that confirmation number. So far, we've only looked at the configurator and the upload. Now, let's take it to where more day-to-day, because then we're into really down here at the bottom, transactions upload. You can upload many times during the day or a single time like at the end of the day. The key is to get your transactions there before the bank starts to process them, right? So you want to make sure that you're kind of keeping in sync. So otherwise your transactions are going to go into the exception file with the bank, and the bank's going to, of course, tell you what their cutoffs are, when that file has to be there so you don't have a ton of exceptions, and just know that you're always going to be able to clear those exceptions. But especially if you have paychecks and employees that might take that check to the bank to be cashed or to be processed, you need to make sure that you're again ahead of that process, okay? So any of my checks are going to be tied to that checkbook, right? So as I go in and I take a look and do all my processing on my checks like I normally would, after that, at one point, I'm going to go to my transaction upload and I'm going to see what needs to be uploaded, okay? So I'm going to go to my to my Wells Fargo one, okay? Oh, wow, we did a really good job on that one, guys. So let's try that again. Evidently, we must have somehow broke one of mine. So we're going to pull in a new one here, and we're just going to tell it to load and reload. If you notice, I'm down here at this portion right now, and get my dates going here so I can load and reload some transactions. And this is what happens when you're practicing your transactions the entire time and, you know, use all of your transactions. Interesting. Let me just take a look here at what's happened to my Wells Fargo one. So guys, remember how we started with Configurator, and I'm just going to bring up my Wells Fargo again. And on my Wells Fargo one, seems like we lost our line, so we can just add those back in, or I'm just going to switch to another one here really quick. So we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at our payroll uptown one. That one's got some good ones for us as well. Okay, and you can see there it's got all the transactions, or sorry, all the detail here. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back to my transaction upload, and in here, picking out my payroll one. And on my payroll one, now filling in my last upload date. When you're getting started with this, it's going to know all of the checks that you haven't loaded yet. And that's probably going to be one of the biggest things that you have to say, okay, I've got to get all of my stuff loaded, but you might not want to send every check back to the bank. So you might want to take some of that old history, load it in here, right? But then do your cutoff to like maybe 2 months before. The bank will help you as far as what they think. So that way, if a check does clear and it's an older check, then the bank will be able to say, okay, do you want me to put that in? Do I want to capture it as an exception? So it's really up to you to decide how, you know, if you don't have very many checks that haven't cleared the bank as far as your bank statement goes, you can leave your upload cutoff date pretty close. But I'm going to take ours back to like 3/1/17 and load reload. So if you notice here, now I'm seeing all of those older checks, okay? And I'm going to go ahead then and use my upload button, because what's going to do is it's going to go ahead and create that file for me, okay? Now that file is one that I would typically send to the bank, but since this is my history and my first time running it on this checkbook, I'm gonna just clear this out. So I'm gonna call this one a clear for history, okay? And I'm putting that into my confirmation number and say that it was successful. Now, at the same time, you're going to get a lot of reports here. And these reports, keep in mind, this is not actually the file. Some people get really confused and they try to send the file, the reports to the bank. What you're going to send to the bank is the file, okay? And I'm going to show you where that file is at next. But keep these reports. I keep these as every time I process. So that way, if there is any inconsistency, I know exactly what has processed, okay? So guys, that file is actually sitting, we told it where to store. So when I look at my local drive, it's actually in my downloads. And then ours is underneath that file, payroll. I'm going to open it up under Notepad so you can see it. Remember how we said check number, check amount, the date, you know, and a payee potential, you know, those, and account number, those pieces are what we're seeing here in my file format. This is the file that I actually want to send to the bank and upload, so that way as check number 20058 clears the bank, it has to match exactly to the amount, the check number, and the bank will tell you all the fields that they will specifically match on before they'll kick it to an exception batch, or they won't clear it without your approval, okay? And again, you have lots of options, but this, your file format is held in your configurator where you're telling it to safeguard that file, okay? And you'll pick it up and you'll upload it to the banking software from there. So guys, so far, remember what we've done is we ran through the configurator, made our file as far as what the layout said. That's more of a one-time process. We looked at the maintenance as far as how do I hook that to my checkbook. Again, one-time process. Now when we're into our transaction upload, one thing you'll note here is this is something I am going to do every day. So I may want to put that right onto my shortcuts, onto my homepage, so I don't forget it and it's easy to find, okay? Because now it's going to be listed under my home button. So right here on my transaction upload, and I want to make sure I'm doing that every time I'm doing a check run. And keep in mind that the next time that I run my payroll one, the checks that I cleared before, it's going to know the last time I did it, and it's going to know what checks haven't been processed. So then I can load, reload again, and now I'm only seeing those current checks. So if you're not sure, you know, if the person that you share the check printing job with has done them, you can come in here and take a look, because you'll see them in the upload window, but until someone actually physically hits upload, they won't be created into the file and they won't be transmitted until you actually physically send them to the bank, okay? Now, let me show you a couple other really good pieces, because sometimes you've made the file, something happened, the bank is telling you they don't have the file, they could be telling you that it had a corruption, so you need to go ahead and remake the file, okay? You may also want to take a look at what the bank is saying that is being held for an exception, and again, decide, do I need to resend? So I'm going to go into my transaction history here, and this transaction history is going to tell you what you sent. So I'm going to look at my payroll one, and when I'm here, I'm able to see the files that have been sent. So remember how I sent the one and I said my confirmation was to clear all that history? Well, all of that history here is being saved. So I could use my re-upload button if I needed to upload that again. Remember, this was my history, so not so much I would want to do that one, but kind of give you an idea that you can use the re-upload if a file failed. It's going to tell you exactly where that file is saved at again, so you know you need to have access to that area to save and to be able to pick it up and send it to the bank. And at the same time, it's going to tell you to proceed to upload the file so you get a new confirmation. Well, remember I had this one before as clear history, and I'm just going to call it resend now. A lot of times I'll put the date. If you don't get a number from your bank, I'll put a date and then the number of the upload that I did. Okay, depending upon what you like, and it's just going to run you back through the same set of reports that you had the first time. Okay, it's going to tell me all my checks that went, the total of my checks, and all the information around them. Okay, so that's on my history. You also have a summary history. So again, remember me and Brandon, we share this job. Oh, Brandon can go in and he can say, yep, she sent all the checks. If I want to see the transactions, I can drill back to the transactions, scan this up, down, print an edit list, re-upload, of course, or just again see the amounts. And at the bottom, if you notice, it is telling me that I uploaded these twice to the bank. Okay. So again, we were doing all of this between the summary history and the transaction history. A couple of key things on my upload here as well. When you take a look, if I'm in my US bank, it's going to tell you at the bottom how many checks, check totals, number of voids. It's giving you all of that key information here as you're looking at loading. This is one we made pretty quick, so I don't know if I've got anything in that one. Every time I add a check, so if I'm just doing a quick check on the fly, transactions, purchasing, down to my transaction entry, if I'm doing a check on the fly, after I do that, that check will be waiting for me in SafePay, and it'll sit in my SafePay upload until I actually tell it to process, okay? So nice, easy way to make sure that your checks are safe. And again, it's all held right underneath routines. This is an install. It may not already be installed on your system. So if you need help with that, let us know. But again, we start off with the configurator, working with the bank. And of course, we have to have this set up with the bank. And the bank will tell you how many times that you get to send. You know, they might say, okay, we let you send 5 times a day. We let you send 2 times a day. And then they may have charges on those. So find out some of those pieces as well. So guys, I know we're getting down towards the end here, and I just want to see if we have any questions in our question panel. If not, make sure you add those questions in for us, okay? And definitely we want to make sure that you guys are getting good pieces of information as we go through these. So go ahead, add in your questions. If you're not sure how to get started, let us know. I mean, this doesn't take us very long to set up at all, and we definitely can walk you right through it. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just put out another poll. So go ahead and fill in your answer to that poll. And this one is really about, you know, if you're using a positive pay system with your bank and just really haven't started using it in GP, how easy it is to get started. Okay. Perfect. Good. It looks like everybody is really starting to think about using it brand new within GP. So again, just underneath your routines and financial, you can get started with that pretty easy. Okay. Set it up with your bank because your bank will tell you the exact format. From there, we can assist. Pretty much though, out of the box, it is really ready to go. Any other questions that we can answer? If you forget to upload a check and you've done your main upload and all of a sudden Twyla's making checks left and right, you know, that's Twyla's main job, you can go back in and just re-upload another file for the day too. It'll always ask you for that confirmation number. And again, if the bank gives you one, perfect, put that in. If you want to use your own sequence, definitely do that as well. Okay, good. Well, guys, I'm not seeing any questions in the question pane. We've kind of went through all of the pieces on SafePay. So I'm going to let you guys have a few minutes left back to your day, and you just let me know if there's anything that we can do to help when it comes to SafePay or any of your other pieces of GP. We're always here to help. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.